now head coach of the USA Ladies team, Lee Bodymead. Welcome, Lee.
Hey Tim, how you doing?
Excellent, excellent. Lee, just talking about teams in general, what would you say are the critical factors in creating a winning hockey team?
Where do you start? I think the first thing that you really have to do is identify the direction you want to go, the style of play that you want to do, how you build a plan around empowering your athletes to carry through with the plan, and then devise the strategies that are going to create the knowledge and the skill that makes you successful. I think the real search is getting the athlete that fits in with what you're trying to achieve. And at times that can be an athlete that doesn't fit the mould but challenges others, and that's where your management comes in. It's where your real understanding of what you're trying to achieve as a coach in getting your team to be successful. So there's a lot of factors to it, but planning for me is by far and above everything that you need to do.
Okay. In the modern game, the ladies' game now, how important is it to have a specialist drag flicker?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I think if you go back to the World Cup last year, and you go to the Olympic Games of 08, I think it was critical at that time. I think that the women's game and the execution, the skill level is developing so that it's a bit like the men's now. 4 years ago with the men, the women are now at that stage where not only do they have good drag flickers, but they have good drag flick defence. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a progression into other areas of set plays that start to develop because of the adaptation of the defence now to counter the drag flick.
Okay. As a coach, you're obviously making decisions about one individual player over another, and oftentimes you'll get down to players who are very similar, but you still have to make a decision because you can only take so many to any given event. How do you choose one player over another?
I think you go back to the original question. I think you have to look at your plan and how the players fit into what you're trying to achieve and what is needed within the team. And every scenario is different. You may have 15 excellent players, and the 16th, it may be that you're looking at someone who's more of a team player. You may have 17 extremely good athletes, and you're looking at someone that's going to drive a high level of performance. But for me, I think there's positional considerations, there are tactical considerations, obviously personality considerations, and these vary at any given time. For our group, Beijing, I felt that in the Olympics there, we were more looking for the player that was going to be supportive and in a team group. Now we're looking at the player who's going to drive the high level of performance. And it's not your best player you're talking about, it's your 16th, 17th player that you're talking about. So I think it's an 80-20. I think you spend 80% of your time and 20% of your players in that selection. But for us, we're in a really strong position now given the depth in our group, and the person who gets in will have played very, very well.
Okay. I've been watching you coaching your side just recently, and I see a burning desire in the eyes of some of your players. How do you motivate the players, which you've obviously done very well?
I have a view on that. I think if you are at this level and you're looking at motivation externally, then you're probably not at the right stage of where you need to be in your development. The players that you're talking about, which for me, when I look into our squad, I see that in their eyes in every player that we have.
Yes.
And they're the ones that have gone through the challenges and been successful and know what it takes at this level to work hard and get the return. The American culture, I found immediately that is ingrained in the athletes when they come into the group, that they want to be successful, and they're very, they're like sponges waiting for the direction, not necessarily the motivation, because they bring the motivation. I provide the platform. I challenge the athletes in a way that I know that they're going to respond, and their response is their motivation. But I challenge them more than try and gee them up.
Okay, so you challenge them, you've motivated them, somebody's doing something wrong, how do you criticise them?
Confront.
Yeah.
You confront
Direct.
without being confrontational. There's a big difference.
Yep.
We get in there, we address it. This is elite sport. This is you're there for a reason. That is that you're the best player in your position in the country, and we don't sugarcoat things. We address and we find resolution. The athletes respond to that. I saw the Moody Moneyball the other day when they were going through practicing, axing or trading a player, and the question came up: do you want one bullet to the head, or do you want 6 to the stomach and bleed to death? And being a former athlete, you want the bullet to the head. You want it how it is, so that you can fix, sugarcoat it, or given grey area to find solutions to. But you want to be able to be a better athlete, and we confront the issues.
Okay. The team structure. Are you the type of coach who likes to differentiate your fullbacks, your halves and your forwards, or are you trying to develop more of an all-round player? And if you are, how do you instill that into the athletes?
Again, I go to point one. We look at what we need in our group, what we're trying to achieve. Then we develop players that have the necessary skills to fulfil that. We've got Lauren Crandall, who's our centre back, who played her whole college life as a midfielder.
Yeah.
So we're looking at what skills we see in certain positions. Obviously, there is a natural strength to athletes that they learn in their formative years, whether they're going to be a good tackler or a good goal shooter or a good leader, all those things that provide necessary skills in required positions. So I'll sit on the fence and walk the line here and say that I have a bit of both.
Yeah.
I think there's horses for courses. We have players, we've developed players to play all through lines, and that's something new to the group that we had initially. The ability to play up front and then in the midfield and then the backfield is something that we have, and I'm really comfortable heading into London knowing that we can rotate players through those lines.
Good. Short corners. You obviously select the attacking short corner. Do you also review the short corner defence during a game?
Ours?
Yes.
We do a little bit of it. We don't do much of it. We work hard on the training field, and it's pleasing during this series against Australia that the hard work's going to pay rewards. But we have very specific cues of which the athletes put in play when we're defending 20 corners, and we work on that off the field so that they're comfortable and confident in what they do on the field. So we don't do a lot of during game scouting. We do some of it, but most of our work is done prior to the match.
When a player receives the ball, what's the first thing they should do?
Before they receive it, they should know what they're going to do with it.
And I see some of your players, they'll actually run at the defence and take them on, the attacking players now.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they'll lay the ball off. Do you have any rules about when they should run at the defence or when they should lay the ball off?
No, not necessarily. We look at the situation. One thing that we want the athletes to identify, as I just mentioned, that we want them to be aware of what they are going to do with the ball prior to receiving. And that will allow them to take in the information, whether they've got a player in isolation, whether they can get to an attacking zone by carrying the ball, and then whether or not they need to lay it off or play through lines. So it all comes back to the original point of what do I need to do prior to receiving.
Okay. We've seen a lot of changes. This is the last question now. We've seen a lot of changes in hockey over recent years, and no doubt we'll see some more. If you could change one rule in the game of hockey, what would it be and why?
I'd have own goals.
Okay.
Yeah. I reckon if the ball's played into the circle and it comes off any player and it goes in the net, I reckon it should be a goal.
Yeah.
I think we have video review umpiring, we have conferrals between umpires, and you got to protect your net. You have to save. You keep your house clean. That's what it is. But that's just one that I'd have. I'd have the ball's played in your circle and it comes off a player and goes into the goal. That's a goal. And I just think it'd make it a lot easier for the umpires. I think there have been some great modifications to our game. The self-start is fantastic. I'm sure everybody was wondering how that was going to turn out when it was brought in, but I can't imagine the game without it now, and it's only been 18 months in the game. But the ones for me would be the own goal, and I'd have less players on the field.
Okay. Well, I must say, Lee, from an external perspective, your players are looking very sharp, and I personally have been quite surprised. I wasn't expecting to see quite that level of performance, so I wish you all the very best of luck heading into London Olympics, and I look forward to seeing you over there.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Lee.